Hello everyone, welcome to another Friday night feature here with Wrestling Royalty and of course Give Me a Ho Yeah as well. We are streaming across both channels and tonight we're going to be talking about a few more matches that have been added to the WrestleMania 40 or the WrestleMania XL card, depending on what you want to kind of call it. But yes, tonight we'll be talking about 4 of the matches that have been added or are about to be added, depending on how you want to look at it, because one of them I know hasn't officially been named, but keen to discuss it. We've already had a chat about some of the bigger ones that have been added. But tonight we're going to be talking about that big tag team match. We're also going to be talking about the 6-pack tag team title ladder match. It's a bit of a mouthful there. We're going to be talking about brother versus brother, Uso versus Uso, Jimmy versus Jay, which is the one that should be confirmed tonight, I believe, as well. And then we're going to be getting into the IC, the Intercontinental Championship, and Sami Zayn versus Gunther, which will be, has been confirmed on Monday night after that gauntlet match. We're going to be having a bit of a chat. And when I say we, I'm going to be bringing in Sam. So thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on Wrestling Royalty. Hit that subscribe button on Give Me a Ho Yeah and show us a bit of love. Get in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are on these matches coming up. And before we could do anything else, there's only one place we could start tonight with, which is, of course, and as if by magic, here he is, back from his trip, back on the air. And he, of course, I think it's been a little while, actually, because before that I was away. There was things up in the air. Normality has been restored. I am joined again by Sam, the man in the hat, the man for Give Me a Ho Yeah, having a bit of a sip of tea because he's got something to say. I'm sure he has. How are you doing, Mr. Sam Smith? Who's on mute?
That's better. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. We're all good.
There we go. Well, that was bloody schoolboy amateur arrow, wasn't it? I was going to say, yes, it's an Irish coffee, but thank you for pointing it out. Yeah, it's been. I'm all right. It's a lot going on. I've just noticed my headphones are working in both again. Well, that's new. It wasn't doing that last week, so that's good. But yeah, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, it's been great. I'm excited to be back. We've got Give Me a Ho Yeah stream tonight coming up at 1 a.m. I'll be wearing a very different outfit, but more on that later, hopefully. But yeah, WrestleMania is. I'm getting excited now. It's starting to take shape, isn't it? It's starting to all come together.
Yeah. And I mean, before we get into WrestleMania, how was Centre Parks? How was life outside of the wrestling bubble?
Well, I had access to the internet, so I was still watching Centre Parks. However, I couldn't watch anything Give Me a Ho Yeah related. I a couple of things because it kept on blocking the channel. Centre Parks was lovely. I just kind of we go every year. We sometimes go twice a year, if I'm being honest. We just sat around. We went swimming. Jess and I had a spa day. That was lovely. Tunes are playing while I'm talking. That was weird.
The ambience in.
Oh right, well yeah, it's like a spa pot and spa music because that was nice and relaxing. I drank a lot of beer. That was to the surprise of no one. Yeah, it was lovely. Went with my in-laws, Jess's brother and his wife, and our nephew, who's a lovely little lad. We had a lot of fun with him. He's an entertainer. Yeah, we saw a lot of squirrels and wildlife, and it's just nice to be in a cabin in the woods, surrounded by nothing but nice bars and spas and swimming pools. I love Centre Parks. I'm a huge fan.
For those who might be watching from a little bit further afield in the UK, Centre Parks is, I would say it's a bit of an upmarket sort of like outdoor getaway. So they do different things like chalets, or some of them have, I think, like hotels or little bungalows, things like that, within like a forest or a lovely area of the UK where you can then partake in doing, like outdoor activities such as like BMXing or football, or they have swimming pools and things. So it's a good sort of getaway. It's more, I would say, kind of like upmarket than a caravan park, and it gives you a little bit of a chance to, I don't know, maybe kind of reset yourself, which is why I put on like a little bit of night driving music, it's called, just to have a bit of a background music.
It's a good job we didn't listen to that coming out for Money in the Bank, innit? We would have been in a ditch.
We would have. We would not be here talking about this, that's for sure. We've got a couple of comments straight off the rip, which is always more than welcome. If you are watching, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you haven't, I hope you stay with us and you really enjoy what you're about to hear. But how it works is we're going to have a chat, but we like to have a chat with you. So make sure you put your comments in. We're really keen to hear what our followers, there's random people, if they're popping their head in because they see us live on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're seeing this, just pop a comment in and let us know what you think. We'll be going through the different matches. And I can see Dean from Scenescape Shop is in, good friend of the channel, both channels. And he's got a great channel himself with all things art that you can watch him paint his masterpieces. And if you want to, you can even buy one as well. But I don't know if it's still going, he was giving out some free artwork. So definitely check out Scenescape Shop if you want some free art from a lovely artist and a lovely man. But yes, Dean is in. He says, hiya, you're telling me Rock's not the best? We'll get into that, and we're going to get into it straight away. We're going to be covering The Rock and the tag team match straight away. He also said, couldn't believe Gable lost. Zayn had totally cooled. Feel we've missed out on an epic Mania match. I promise we'll get into that as well. We will have a good discussion because I think we were having a bit of a chat earlier in the week. We have different opinions on where that might lead and what was the best thing to do, maybe. But yeah, Dean, let us know a little bit more as we go along. Why were you more towards Gable than Zayn? And we've got Hassan as well, who says, hi there, guys. Happy almost St. Patrick's Day weekend. Is that this weekend, is it?
I don't know, mate. I don't really pay attention to any of that. And Hassan, no, you can't have a vote. And I'm afraid you can't have one later either. But do please join me, and we'll have a manual vote, mate. Because you know that thing I keep telling you I'm going to fix it, Sam. I've still not fixed it. So we'll get there.
So as you can see, tonight we are going to be talking about these 4 matches. One of them you can see in the top right-hand corner hasn't quite been officially announced, and definitely not as a street fight. But I think we'll get a little bit more information tonight, and we'll get into a little bit about whether there's any heat behind that, or as Dean said about Sami Zayn, has it cooled off a bit too much? Have they left it a little bit too long? Because there's some strong opinions online, as there always is. Keen to hear everyone else's as well. So, as I did promise, we are going to start off with what promises to be one of the biggest tag team matches in the history of not just WrestleMania, but as they're billing it, of WWE as well. So this went down as officially listed on WrestleMania for last Friday. So that was, of course, for anyone who's been living under a rock, we are going to get Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline in the shape of The Rock and Roman Reigns. Now, there is a little bit of a stipulation on this as well. We'll say that before we get going. The stipulation is going to be whoever wins this tag team match basically gets something. If the Bloodline win it, Sunday's main event between Cody and Roman is going to be contested under the Bloodline rules. We don't really know what that is, other than it's potentially just no disqualification with a different name on it. But if Cody wins with Seth, the Bloodline will not get involved in the match on Sunday. Basically, it will be a strict one-on-one match. Now, anyone who's been watching wrestling for a little while, I think, can kind of predict where they're going with this. However, let's get into it. Because Sam's been away for a little while, and I'm really keen to hear one of his big monologues. And I'm going to start you off with a very interesting question. Has this tag team match muddied the water somewhat for the main event of WrestleMania weekend, which is Cody versus Roman? Or has it added to it?
I think it's added to it.
Okay.
I think this is what they should have done all along when we had the silly confusion with when they cancelled the match and then they brought the match back. I think this is a nice compromise because look, we always want to see like Rock versus Roman. A lot of people, like, I'm a Cody crybaby, right? I'm a proud Cody crybaby, and I think you're of that persuasion as well. And it wasn't that I didn't want to see The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I totally do, but I feel like they missed the boat to do it at WrestleMania because of the Cody storyline, but they can still do it later on. Maybe do it at SummerSlam or something like that. So I feel like this is a fair compromise. And also with The Rock, he's no disrespect to Dwayne Johnson, but he's not the performer he used to be in the ring. I think this is going to go easier on him. Him in a singles match did concern me a little bit. Again, I'm always optimistic, but I'm not going to lie. You know, when you're that size, a little bit artificially. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I mean he's like he looks like that to be aesthetic. It's not necessarily a ring fitness regime, and it's very, very different from looking good. So yeah, I'm actually kind of excited about this. I think this is a great way to sell a really good main event on night one. Obviously, I don't know if that was your next question, Andy, but the heels have to win this because we have to see what the stipulation is for the next night to raise the stakes, and that makes it way more fun. I kind of like that Rollins is involved as well, because that makes life harder for him. And if he does drop the belt to McIntyre, it gives him an excellent reason to, on top of all the stuff about his body breaking down and his injuries. So I think it really does wonders for the Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre story as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm into it. And then I think Cody and Roman doing double duty makes them both look stronger going into night two as well. So yeah, I'm for it. I actually don't see any downsides to this. I feel like we're getting The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania, and people were always like, "Oh, well, he's going to sell tickets. It's a big deal having The Rock. The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania is a much bigger deal than anything else." Well, now you've got it, guys. You've still got it. You haven't lost anything at all. But we've still got the story that they've been building for several years there as well. So I'm happy. I'm completely satisfied with it. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, it's always good to hear that you are satisfied by it. And I have to agree pretty much on everything there, because there's a lot of nuance to this, as well as the kind of the really obvious stuff as well. So, like, if you look at it from the perspective of Cody Rhodes left WWE because he had no creative direction when he did originally. He was given a gimmick where he tried to make the best of it in Stardust, and arguably he did a good job with Stardust, because, you know, anyone else probably would have failed within a few weeks. It would have been laughed out of the building. He left, he made a name for himself, and he came back to WWE. And if you look at it from the perspective of this weekend at WrestleMania 40, which they're billing as the biggest WrestleMania ever, he's going to be in the main event of both nights. Which, to my knowledge, I don't think they've done that, because it's not that long that they've had two nights for WrestleManias. So the chance for him to main event both is huge. So in some respects, he's kind of done what he set out to do, which is to be the guy. He is there. He is there with Roman. He's in the main event of both nights, and he's going up against one of the best people in the world. It also gives a little bit of shine, as you said, to Seth. He is in a main event of one of the nights. Again, in this match with all the biggest names that they possibly could do at this point,
and deserves to be. And just to chip in as well. Anybody who's still on the fence about Cody being the next guy in WWE, sorry, I don't know what more you need to see. Okay, perhaps it's a title win, but this is a done deal. This is like they try. Like, obviously, Roman Reigns is still very much the guy in his own way, especially while he's still got that belt. But the big babyface Roman Reigns didn't come off. Maybe it will never come off. This, however, but it doesn't need to, because what we've had with Roman Reigns is the bloodlines, the heel, since he took that belt off Bray Wyatt and took the next one off Brock Lesnar, that he's already just done everything he needs to do in that position. So, but eventually someone needs to slay this dragon. And if you don't think WWE want that to be Cody Rhodes by now, you got to get with the program. Because even if it isn't at Mania, they're still pulling the trigger on Cody Rhodes. This isn't going to be they're just stroking Cody while they wait for him to leave and go back to AEW. No. This is the guy for the next 10 years. Make your peace with it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it from the perspective as well, if everyone who comes out of this tag team match, there's a story for it, because to me, the way I would go that makes the most sense out of everything is, and this might be controversial, might not be, I think The Rock has to pin Cody Rhodes on Saturday night, because you build the story of Cody being an underdog. He's taken a loss, how does that affect you physically and mentally going into the biggest match of your career? Because if you lose, you don't get any more title shots. That's what they're spinning now. And it really kind of plants that seed. But it also makes The Rock look stronger than Roman. So if you want to do that feud of The Rock versus Roman, The Rock can say, I literally gave you everything you needed to get a win, and you still couldn't get the job done when Cody wins. And then he goes, and you want to call yourself head of the table? Well, I gifted you it, and you still couldn't do it. It keeps The Rock very strong in that position. You also look at the other side, and you go, right, well, Seth potentially sacrifices his title to Drew because he got involved in the match, because he believed in Cody and he believed in the story. It sends him heel. I think you could also quite easily have him off screen for quite a while, because I believe that he's got contract negotiations that are going on at the moment. It would muddy that water as well, because you could say, like, you know what, like, I deserve the main event, and you had to get The Rock and Roman and Cody to have 2 nights. He can become really bitter and resentful, and then have him go away for a little while as well, and build that heat up. And he can heat him back up at any time, because I believe he will re-sign with the company. I think he is loyal to the soil when it comes to WWE, and I think it would be good for business to say, take yourself away, get some surgery if that's what you need to actually heal, like in real life, and then we'll like you use it as a story. But for me, I think there's been some great spots already. The thing I really like is the Friday night videos that Rock's been putting up on Twitter, where they're like long form promos. Like last week's, I think, was like 20 minutes long, or the one before that. And he does them in like empty arenas or in his own gym. And like the one today where he basically just like goes in on Cody's mum was very entertaining. And he's saying stuff he can't say on TV, but you tune in and you go, oh, this is actually a new way that WWE can steer into this and tell the story and add to the story that they're telling on TV. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it, because basically The Rock just says, the only belt you're getting is this weight belt, which is going to be covered in your son's blood, and I'm going to give it to you. Lots of swear words in it, lots of stuff that he couldn't get away with saying tonight in Memphis, and you can watch along with Sam tonight over on Gimme Hell Yeah. So there are rumors, because it's Memphis, we might get a Hollywood Rock like musical thing that they've done before. There's some comments coming in. I want to make sure I get there. Richard, go check it out. He's actually already put it up about a few hours ago. Very entertaining. It's about 7 or 8 minutes long. If you watch it, try and make sure you watch it before SmackDown with Sam tonight. And I think it'll add to it as well. Interesting comment. And I kind of covered it there. What do you think? Is Rock going to turn tables on Roman at WrestleMania, or is this something that will go on a little bit longer?
So now I do think, like, obviously what they wanted to do here, and they didn't get away with it, is they wanted to try and do The Rock versus Roman. That's kind of the story they want to tell. But I think it's actually a better story having them aligned right now and then breaking up later. I love the idea of, like, once of Rock losing faith with Roman, because at the moment they're kind of teasing, is Rock going to turn on Roman? But I actually think something's going to happen to turn The Rock face again. This is a temporary measure, what we're seeing with The Rock, to help build up Cody and make him the hero. The Rock wants to be a face, really. He never planned to turn heel ever again. So, like, you know, Roman, feuding with Roman is the thing they always wanted to do. It's something at least they wanted to do for a while. They can do that as the build to SummerSlam. They can get there. Even if The Rock takes some time off again, he can then come back, and they can do it that way. And the title of Tribal Chief and fighting over the whole family dynamic, like, they don't need the belt involved. They don't need any championship involved. That is enough of a fake bauble in itself for them to fight over. You don't need the belt for this. So that's a great story. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So I do think, yes, we are going to see an end to this alliance between The Rock and Roman. They're clearly not on the same page. Like, The Rock didn't really want to, I acknowledge you, but he did. Obviously, Roman is feeling a little bit upstaged by The Rock. If you don't believe me, go and watch all the promos, look at his face. Roman is selling it very, very well. And it doesn't matter. Like, the whole reason he said, look, I need you to do this one thing, acknowledge me, was because he felt upstage. And if you notice, all the Bloodline members are standing behind Roman loyally, like they always do. The Rock isn't. He's out on the other side of the ring, doing his own thing, moving about. It's only a matter of time before we get a video package where Heyman points that out. That is a deliberate move. So,
there's psychological stuff behind that as well, because like when you look at it from that perspective of like The Rock isn't, as Rishab said as well, he doesn't quite do the same as everyone else. He's always got to be that little bit different, and there's a little bit, and the look will all. That's the thing that they'll go back to, is when Roman like tried to wrestle the power back, and from a psychological standpoint, it's really like interesting because it's a very like gaslighting thing of, oh, you want me to do this thing for you? Well, you're gonna have to do this thing for me, and it's kind of like really kind of saying like, if you want to be part of this family, like you're gonna have to like fall in line, and he's playing on that thing that The Rock has been boiling down to. And I've said it all along, The Rock's in this for the family. And the minute he realizes that Roman isn't, and he's not really in with the family, and it's all about himself, that's where things will start to get a little bit dicey for their like relationship between them. So the fact that The Rock had to acknowledge him, that's what those video packages I think will be centered around, of like The Rock can just cut a promo and say, you wanted me to acknowledge you, like who are you, where have you been like the last 25 years? You might be like in the last few years, but
I've been fantasy booking this. I've been fantasy booking this in my head for about a year, but I've been doing it with Jacob for two, not The Rock. I've been suggesting, because obviously like Rikishi even hinted that Jacob is currently talking to WWE and is likely to sign. But I predicted, like, let's say The Rock becomes pathetic, loses the bloodline, Jacob for two comes in and is like, no, cuz you were never tribal chief, mate. Never. Like, you were on TV. Yeah, you held the belt, but I never acknowledged you. So many others of us didn't. This was all in your head, pal. And I love that idea of then Roman then feuding with them and it all being, and him being exposed as a fake and all of that. And The Rock could actually fill this role as well, as you said there. If you don't mind, I'll just quickly acknowledge something you said about Seth Rollins. See,
yes.
I love the idea of Rollins kind of disappearing a little bit. Not that I want him to go away, but him recovering in kayfabe from his injuries. I'm a little bit in real life. But I don't like the idea of him turning heel. I think him turning face. My problem with Seth is like in the recent years, they've turned him quite a lot. I don't think too much, but they have turned him significantly compared to other people. I like the idea of him kind of disappearing, us having the CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud, which I'm salivating for, and then him coming back into the middle of that once Punk finally takes. I'm assuming he beats Rollins at Mania, takes the belt off McIntyre whenever that happens. And then that's when Burn It Down happens. And I also love the idea of Punk and Rollins heading into next year's WrestleMania, both as tweeners. Because you are going to have people behind either one of them for different reasons. And they were going to go into this Mania, from what I could see, with no heel or face dynamic, because both men are polarizing in their own way. And I think it was a story that told itself. That's what I want them to do. Because to me in this feud, Punk is the heel. Yeah. Where to all the Punk fans, Rollins is the heel. You don't need anyone to turn. Yeah. Just do. That's me.
Yeah. Norma's in the house, as always, very loyal to Give Me a Hole, and the streams as well. So really appreciate you being in, Norma. And thank you very much for your comment. Who thinks Cody won the slap contest? Rock's slap was kind of a half-assed effort. Cody's looked much more legit. Yeah, I'd say so. There was probably a little bit more behind it in terms of like The Rock had just got done calling him a mistake, which I think has been called out of going strange because your own daughters have 20 years in between them as well. So a bit awkward that in this day and age, people on social media are very quick in sense of knowing and investigating stuff like that. So, I
don't get why that's a bad thing. Sorry, mate. Oh, yeah. So I don't get why that's a bad thing, because all right, my brother won't mind me saying this, but my parents weren't planning on having any more children. And then they got caught and then they ended up with my younger brother Toby, who's again, he's about 18. He's going on 18 now, but we have a lot of banter with Toby about him being an accident. No disrespect, not in a horrible way, but we like
you have banter. The way that Rock said it,
yeah,
is very much a negative connotation. And then he's got his daughter, who is his elder daughter, Simone, who's actually on NXT as Ava and is the general manager. But then having that negative connotation and having the same situation yourself doesn't really mean,
I suppose,
towards your own daughter.
Because if I was Cody, I would have been like, bro, maybe you're right. I'll do what my brother does and go, I was a happy accident and the world is a better place for it. That's the sort of thing he would say. And that if I was Cody, I wouldn't get all uppity about that. I'd be like, is that the best you got, mate? Is that it? Seriously? That's all you got? Okay.
Yes, but then that happened on last Friday. We can see what happens again this week with The Rock, and that's in Memphis. But we did see I believe it was Dallas on Monday Night Raw. We saw this in-ring interview with Michael Cole and Cody Rhodes. I'll ask you in terms of a production value rather than anything that was said. What did you think of this segment? Because Michael Cole doesn't get to do this sort of stuff too often. And I personally thought this is quite reminiscent of some of the stuff that Schiavone's done on AEW. Yeah. What did you think of WWE doing this?
I like it. I also think it's a great way to utilize Cole, because don't get me wrong, like we're all used to Cole being a little bit of a talking head and going, "Oh, shut up, Cole." But here's the thing with Cole. That was because he had Vince in his ear, shouting at him, telling him stuff. Like the Michael Cole, when he's allowed a little bit of rope and a little bit of freedom, a little bit of creative control, which I think he gets under Triple H. He's a much more he's a better performer. We forget how good Cole is at this sometimes. Is that you there, Dom? Who's that behind the logo that I have on my hat? Cole is great when he's got some freedom. So it's like give him the freedom, and this is a great way to utilize Cole and give him that. And who better to do this with than Cody? Seriously.
Yeah, I loved everything about it. And it's a bit of a side note. I think there's a lot of creative decisions in terms of the way that the product is being sent out there at the moment that has come on leaps and bounds in the last few weeks since we've had that change. Like the shots where they go in through, like the sort of merchandise and the concourse, and then they go into the stadium, the arenas and the stadiums through that way, and a couple more drone shots here and there, or like ringside stuff. There was one shot where they were kind of in amongst the crowd and walked into ringside, and it was so kind of like natural that even the camera crew that were on the other side of the barricade had to duck down because they realized, I'm in the shot. But to me, it's not a mistake. It actually makes it a bit more real. Like a fan would walk up with his phone and record it, and it's kind of like gives it a little bit of a different viewpoint. So yeah, I really like that. And I also like the vignettes and the promos that they're doing before. It makes it feel a little bit more real. And Cole, I think, as you said, is probably one of the biggest winners out of this, because now it just feels like he's having a bit of fun. Like some stuff's maybe going a bit too far, and I think that's with him, like the antler stuff with what's her name, Valhalla. But if he's enjoying it, then great. And I think him being alongside Pat is just giving him a new lease of life. And he like enjoys it. Even when Corey was there, he enjoys that. But this stuff is like, I'd take this interview and put it alongside when he used to be a backstage reporter and The Rock would just rip him apart. Like, to me, it was like, it shows not just how far the company's come, but how far Michael Cole's come as well, which is a really cool moment for him. And as Dean said, love Michael Cole too. I have a lot of love tonight. It's the good looking one.
That doesn't narrow it down. You're all absolutely gorgeous. That doesn't narrow it down at all. I'm none the wiser.
He thinks it's dumb if he's saying that.
See, I think it's Hargreaves. I think it's you.
And maybe it's even Anth, but let's face it, Anth ain't going to be watching a WWE stream, is he?
No, he will if he can troll me about Cody and Roman.
He might do if it's one of his 2K24 videos as well, because he's doing a great job of over as well. So if you haven't watched it and you're playing 2K24, go check out Anth's series over on Give Me a Hole. Yeah, it's a really good series on my GM. And I think we've just had it confirmed that it's it's definitely Dan who's in the back end there, which
That's where he likes to be.
I was going to say. But yes, fantastic on Raw. One last question before we move on to the next match. Is there anything else that you want to see before in about 3 weeks' time we hit WrestleMania? Is there something missing? Is there something you'd like to see both for the tag team match and Cody versus Roman?
Yeah, I think this is probably just my ego talking, but I kind of want to see how do I say this, a pulling together of many of the story strands we've been watching over several years. I mean, the Sami Zayn stuff, the Solo Sikoa stuff. I want to see Roman's title reign. Like, I'm assuming it's coming to an end here. It may not be, but I want to see the bloodline slowly start to look at Roman and get a bit sick of him. Like, I think the Jimmy and Jay thing, I know we'll get onto that, but that's going to tell its own story and can feed into this, where we need to see what's going on with Solo Sikoa. And we need to see, again, I've always liked the idea of a unified bloodline walking up the ramp away from Roman Reigns, perhaps with The Rock now as well. Sami Zayn included in this. So, the twins and Solo, all of them looking back and being like, you know what? No. But them going out together, all leaving together. And, all the former members of the bloodline not attacking Roman, not doing anything like that, because that might take away from Cody's win. But then just turning their back on him. Okay, you could have a great piece of Schadenfreude where Roman is screaming in Solo's face, Cody's down, the ref's down, and you have this moment where Solo just goes, and Samoan spikes Roman and then leaves. Now, again, the Schadenfreude would taste delicious, but at the same time, it might take away from Cody's win. But then you could then have Roman the next night going, yeah, well, if it weren't for bloody Solo, I would have won. And then you can have a little miniature feud between Solo and Roman. But because word on the street is The Rock's going to go away for a while after Mania and then come back a little while later. So I think they're doing something with Roman and Rock for SummerSlam, having that big match, but just having it there. Like they were going to relegate Cody and Roman to SummerSlam, now they're just going to flip the script and do it that way. But you could then lead into a Roman Solo feud. That'd be nice. So yeah, to answer your question, I kind of want to see a unified bloodline. I want to see the chess pieces moved in the direction of that. It's not mandatory, but I think it would be good long-term storytelling for this story, because I do feel like the Sami Zayn element and the bloodline element is very, very important and has to play a part somehow because of just how invested we've all been in it over the years.
I think one of the things that they've been really good at over the last few weeks is making sure this feels like everything happens in the same universe, because before you'd have matches on the card and they would feel like, well, that's just its own thing and that's its own thing. Whereas there's so many intertwining things here, which I really like, because if you went backstage, you could turn one way and see Roman, and you go the other and you see Sami Zayn, and you can see how they interact and things like that. And that's more believable. For me, I think there's a few things I'd like to see happen just to really sharpen and polish this up a little bit more. I'd like to see another Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes promo, like a sort of back and forth where Paul Heyman can prove on his way to his Hall of Fame how vicious he can be, and kind of really go in and kind of and try and mentally destroy Cody. I'd like to see a tag team match between Cody and Seth against potentially Jimmy and Solo. And for me, the way that I would have that go along is I would have Seth and Cody not be on the same page throughout the whole thing, and really kind of go are these guys going to be able to do it? That classic, can they coexist? But more of a case of guys, if you don't get this together, your matches are going to be awful on the Sunday because the bloodline are just going to run through you, sort of thing, and have that. But I'd go one step further to have not only they would maybe eke out a win, but then absolutely destroy them afterwards, where The Rock and Roman could come out and help really beat them down. Because I think, to me, you really have to be careful of how you're presenting Cody between now and WrestleMania. If you want people to stay on his side, you need to make sure that you can't sympathize or root for The Rock and Roman at all. You want to see Cody win. So the only way they can do that is stop having him presented for the next few weeks as a superhero. I would have him like beaten down mentally and physically. So you have Paul Heyman start it. You get people like kind of that'll go the clappers on YouTube. You'll get loads of figures for that. But then have The Rock and Roman just beat them with steel chairs or something to plant that seed of doubt. And then you also get the satisfaction of Jimmy can be run off by Jay. And then whoever like Solo might be up against, if anyone, can get involved. But also you can get that kind of like everyone's in it together. Drew can basically be stood at the top laughing because he's like, I told you, Seth, you should have stayed out of this. And it's a chance to get all those kind of intertwined things across in one match. And that's all I'm asking for, is that tag team match has to happen for me. And it would cover a lot of the bases. Couple more gone in there. Sorry, Sam, I'll let you go back in a second.
I was going to say, the intertwining stories is something I've wanted WWE to lean into for years. And for some reason, they could never do it. It had to be that person and that person and that person and that person. And now they're doing it. Everything feels a little bit connected in this universe, and I'm loving that. Like, there was a time AEW were doing really, really well at that as well, and now that's kind of fallen by the wayside. TNA are pretty good at it, but it's like I love the idea of what you said earlier of Seth going a little bit far and giving everything he can give in that tag match, and as a result, it costs him the next night. I think that's great storytelling. And also with Cody, they've started this. They made him a bit of a badass the other night when Paul Heyman was like, do you mind if we get in the ring? And he was like, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, if you take a step towards me, I will kill you all with a chair. And they just didn't listen to him. So he did. And I remember thinking that was amazing, because that was a little bit Stone Cold Steve Austin-y. Like, sometimes the white meat baby face is boring. Sometimes I want to see a little bit of edge, a little bit of fire, a little bit of violence from the top face. And I feel like they're getting the balance right with Cody right now. They really needed that segment the other night.
Yeah, and I do feel like if they're not careful, though, they could fumble this right at the finish line, because I am seeing some comments, and it's maybe because The Rock's involved, where people are saying, no, I'm bored of Cody. Like, he cries, he does all this, he wears suits and stuff, and I need to see something a bit different to actually like root for him. So yeah, that's where that comes from. But let's address some of these comments. Norma, Cole was on fire as an announcer at SummerSlam 2023 when they let him loose in the ring to do his thing. He's a great performer. Absolutely agree with that. Dan, presumably, is saying Triple H has done an amazing job of intertwining storylines. You're right. Norma, again, there is a Michael Cole's funniest moments video on YouTube. I'd forgotten how the topic a bit. Yeah, I remember when he used to have his like sort of spaghetti hair, as I'd call it back in the day, or his like highlights or tips or whatever you want to say. And he used to just get like throttled by the Big Show or The Rock or Kane or whatever, and he was just kind of like fodder. But then it's really interesting to see his transition from that to what he is today. And you know, he's backstage. He's in charge of all of the commentary, so everything's kind of run by him in terms of like who and how it gets over. Chris Leclerc is in and says Dakota Kai versus Bayley tonight on SmackDown. Yes, that is correct. We will see a little bit more about Dakota Kai, which we did speak about last week. I spoke about when we went through the women's matches for WrestleMania that have been announced so far. Love Dakota Kai, love the story with Bayley. I think that'll be an interesting one to see how they develop that storyline tonight. And of course, you can at midnight, I believe, tonight on Gimme Hell Yeah with Sam, watch along SmackDown, because thankfully for the UK, America's turned their clocks back already, or forward, whichever way it is. Spring forward, they've gone forward. And it helps us out for at least a week or two.
Oh, it's so good.
Right.
I can tell you.
One thing that we might see a little bit more about tonight as well, brother versus brother, Uso versus Uso, Jimmy versus Jay. Now, there is obviously this that I put up. I couldn't find, they haven't actually done it because it's not been announced yet. a nice kind of promo card. So I got this one off the line, which says it's going to be a street fight. Wouldn't be against it. Because quite frankly, I think they've gone a bit too late with this one. They've had to drag it out a little bit longer than they probably wanted to. I think a lot of people maybe are quite passive on this one. What about you, Sam? Is this something that they should have done a little bit earlier, and this kind of could have been like the third of a trilogy, or in that trilogy? But are you excited for this?
Yeah, I think it would have been boring if they'd done it. I feel like this is something that I get what they were doing here. They were saving it for Mania. They should have done a better job of kind of making these two guys just getting each other's faces more often. Like Jimmy just randomly coming out and assaulting Jay is a bit daft. I think this should have been Jay getting in the way of the bloodline at time, like inadvertently, and that pushing him towards Jimmy, and then Jimmy going after him, or Roman deliberately targeting him would have been a little bit more malevolent. So yeah, there is a little bit of a lack of heat. Like, in order to appreciate this match, you can't be a casual, and you've got to be somebody who's been following this story. But yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it'll be a good match. They both have very, very similar styles because they've been tag team partners for most of their careers. That's going to be interesting because it's a little bit like when a superhero faces a supervillain with the same powers as them.
Yeah. You mean every Marvel opening film ever?
Yeah. So I think this is about the story to me, and I don't think this can go on after Mania. I think there needs to be a reunification of them after this. Be it Jay helping Jimmy back up to his feet and being like, "What are we doing?" Or Jimmy losing faith in Roman Reigns, because let's not forget, Roman Reigns never wanted Jimmy in the end. Jimmy was the first one to turn on Reigns. He's the first one to super kick him, and he didn't have a home, so he's gone back grudgingly to Roman, and is now a bit of a toady trying to make up for all of that. I love the idea of before this, or even after it, Roman just degrading Jimmy and telling him he doesn't care about him and he's a loser and blah, blah, blah. And so Jimmy going into this with doubt in his mind. So it's easy for... Yeah, I kind of want to see Jimmy turn babyface after this. These two reunify. And then we have like the first major domino in the total fall of the bloodline. Because this feels like a far cry from Money in the Bank, where they were the two of them were together wrestling Solo and Roman. I feel like that never even happened. There was a pointless chapter in this story. So they've got to make it mean something again, and I feel like that's the way you do it. If this carries on, this feud after Mania, and presumably if Roman's losing, then I don't see how that works. This all needs to come to a head at Mania and go into a new era from there.
Yeah, and as Dean quite rightly says, I feel like I've already seen this. Super kick, 1-2, kick out, 1-2, kick out, splash, splash, pin. They are effective because they've been a tag team, and the way that they worked, it wasn't because it was two different people thrown together. It was two brothers who have learned the same way of fighting and wrestling. Their skill set and their moveset is incredibly similar. I'm surprised they haven't had Jay, for example, because he's been on his own in his main event, Jay, etc., have a little bit more added to his repertoire, because put in a submission move which makes you stand out a little bit differently. Because if they do come back together in the future, I'd like it because they're developed as people and as wrestlers, and they can offer something different, and then they can go, actually, we are better together, and now we're even better than we were before because we've had this experience being separate, we've learned new things, and it doesn't matter which one of us is in the match, you're going to have a hell of a match. And this is probably why they have to have a stipulation like a street fight, because it would just be like a Young Bucks versus Young Bucks match. It's going to be super kicks. It's going to be something off the top rope. It's going to be a Samoan drop or whatever. So I feel like, yes, it needs something to paint Jay's frustration that Jimmy's screwed him out of titles. He's screwed him out of like shots at the IC title or things like that. And let's not forget, Jay followed Jimmy only for Jimmy to stab him in the back. It's a bit confusing, but then that needs to be addressed properly. And Jay is super over, by the way. When you see the crowd doing this like sort of like thing, then you go, all right, so the crowd are buying it. I don't think it's time to make them be a tag team again yet. I would have Jay possibly go for an IC title again or go for the US title. But yeah, I do agree. I don't think this is one that can continue outside of WrestleMania. I personally see this as you guys have done so well for the tag team division. You were screwed out of multiple WrestleMania matches over the years. Now let's give you a chance just to go at each other and create like a big memory. The thing I'm most excited for, I think this will be a cracking video promo before the match. I think they can do a great job of going back for like videos of them being kids in the ring with Rikishi and stuff like that. And like that's the stuff that WWE excels at. But don't rely on that. Give us a story in the match where like Jay is like actually hesitant to really push on. If it's a street fight, can he deliver that final blow that would completely ruin Jimmy? But Jimmy doesn't have that remorse in him. He would happily just take a sneaky win, or he would do that, pull the trigger, etc. So they need to do something, and I think it'll start tonight. I think we might see Jimmy's response, or we might see the anti-ups, etc., things like that. We might even see something like an interaction with Jay and The Rock, which I think would be really interesting, where Jay's at the arena and The Rock says, "Oh, aren't you the worst twin or the crap twin out of the two of them?" And then they get into a bit of a backstage brawl between that when The Rock's kind of taking the piss and Jimmy's sniggering in the background. I would do something like that, just to again weave that together. Wish it was at Hollywood and they gave.
Sorry, you saw me take my headphones off. Then Jess is in the kitchen making a cup of tea, so I had to get my order in. So sorry,
yeah.
Karen.
No, absolutely, that's fine. But yes, I wish it was last year's, basically saying, and they gave us a Twins trailer. What was as in like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, presumably. Mark's in. How are we, folks? How's it going, Mark? Thanks for joining. One of our very good friends of the channels. So good to have Mark in on the Friday night.
Our newly minted moderator for Give Me a Haul as well.
Yes, I didn't want to say because I didn't know if it had been announced or not, and I didn't want. I think I would be the worst person out of everyone on the Give Me a Haul channel to have announced that.
I think it was announced, wasn't it, Mark? If I've just botched that, then do tell me. But there we are.
Well, congratulations to Mark either way, because it is good news and well deserved as well. So behave yourself, otherwise Mark will have you in the chat. For Eubanks, brother versus brother street fight in a 6-pack ladder match. Yeah, we've just covered the Jimmy versus Jay, and we'll be covering the 6-pack ladder match. But yes, we saw this very brief promo over on Raw, and yeah, Mark's just said we have, but never mind. Let's ignore what we said for the last 2 minutes. And we're going to move on really swiftly because that's what we do here. We're going to move on to Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn picked up the win in the gauntlet match, the much hyped gauntlet match that was kind of a running theme throughout Raw. Individual interviews with them all, hype packages, and then we finally got the last 45 minutes of Raw, which was nice to have that complete run to finish. And quite surprisingly, in some respects, Sami Zayn picked up the win, but the fans weren't happy. Were you happy? That's what I have to ask there.
What, me personally?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is the story. This has always been the story. And it's like, look, I love Chad Gable, but he's not the guy in this story. He is a sacrificial lamb for Sami, and that was always the case. Yes, have they been building the story with Gable, and has it been compelling? Yes. But the minute Sami did those promos where he was sat in the chairs and being spoken to by, the backstage interviewers, he said, "I have to be a champion at WrestleMania." Then this match became obvious. Then what they're doing at Mania became obvious, and Gunther was the only person who didn't have an opponent. So, this was a foregone conclusion. I get it's made. Look, WWE fans are fickle. And a little while ago, it was all about Sami. Now, all of a sudden, it's all about Gable. Before that, it was all about Kofi. It was all about LA Knight. And this is just how it goes. But the story they're telling here is Sami Zayn winning a championship the right way. And Gable, there can only be one of them. And again, they could make it a triple threat, but I doubt it. Because I think the storyline here is Gable nearly getting there and coming up short. I also kind of think that's the story with Sami. I don't think Sami's winning at Mania. I think this goes on and plays out and becomes a wider story all the way to SummerSlam. But I know, Andy, you think something different. I do genuinely believe this is building to Gable trying to ruin it for Sami, maybe costing him at Mania, him turning heel, the two of them feuding with each other in a very hard-hitting and savage and serious feud until Sami overcomes Gable and goes back at Gunther at SummerSlam and eventually prevails there. I do think there are still good things coming for Gable, but I don't think it's his time. I'm not taking away from the amazing matches he puts on. In an ideal world, yeah, it'd be great. But I think the story here is Sami. I don't think the story here was ever Gable. His time, again, its time will come. But I think, again, and when we've seen Gable as a heel, we've only ever seen him as a bit of a jokey heel, like with the shoes, thank you. And I was never a big fan of that. The idea of Gable being a vicious heel, surgically going after people, and a justified vicious heel at that, or at least a not fully justified, but it should have been him, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I've been watching wrestling a long time. I know the signs. I would bet my card this is where they're going.
the one thing I will say, and I know this is where it kind of comes in that we differ slightly, is the 5-minute promo that they did on like the social media channels, where we had Kathy Kelly interviewing Chad Gable in his locker room afterwards. And to me, I've never actually seen an interview where someone was presented themselves so deeply believing in how real it was, because if you watch that, you would be forgiven to think, oh, actually that was like something that you would see after the Olympics or after a big football match or a basketball match, where an interview was talking to an athlete who has just lost out on it, and it was so very real and raw, and the way he presented it was like, I think was absolutely fantastic. And to me, it really painted Chad Gable and his character as like, this is who I am. I believe in this sport. I believe I should be better. This is why I have to be better. I have to go home and take stock and look my family in the eye and say, I know you rely on me and I messed up and I wasn't good enough and I need to work out why I wasn't good enough. And yes, in the past, I think we have seen that leads to a heel run. I just think in this day and age of the creative and the Triple H, is there very much a case of like, let's go down the realism route. Someone like Chad has been an Olympian in real life, and that's the kind of stuff that he's had to deal with. Is like, actually, could I win a gold medal, or am I only ever going to be that guy who nearly gets there? I think he is going to be the one to do it. I don't think anymore. And Mark brings up the point of like, it was going round. So where is it? That his shoulders weren't on the mat, and that picture was going round because Sami kind of rolled him up very high. And maybe they do use it. Maybe this does become a triple threat match because they might be looking at it from a percent of like, can we stoke up the social media side of things to people want to root for Chad, and they have to put him in a la Kofi Kingston or Daniel Bryan in the past that they have done, because they do those things very well. And there's always a storyline where, building up to Mania, someone's going to be left out and the crowd rallies behind them. Now this year it does seem to be Chad, and it'll be interesting to see in the next 3. By the way, Chad is such a proper American name just to say. I have to kind of say Chad Gable. But yes, Chad Gable looks like he could be the person this year that people do get behind. But it'd be interesting to see if Triple H wants to add him into this or not, because the other way of looking at this is Sami Zayn was in the main event last year and did great, and that match was one of the best of last year, arguably. I think we had it in our top 5 or whatever it was that we did earlier in the year or late last year. This match, Gunther versus Sami Zayn, to me, could be Sami Zayn's best wrestling individual singles match since Nakamura Sami Zayn in NXT, because I'm struggling to think of one where I could go.
Roman Reigns and Sami was pretty good.
That's true, but that was more of the story. The actual match itself was born out of emotion and the story, whereas this can be a technically amazing masterpiece of a match if you just give these guys 20 minutes, because Sami Zayn and Gunther have similar backgrounds in the sense of like they're very much trained on the independent scene. They would put on an absolute banger of a match. This is the one I think we come out of the weekend and go, that's going to be in people's top 10 matches of the year because it was that damn good. And more of the kind of like wrestling things, because WWE doesn't give time because they just have a lot of things to get done during week to week. And this is the one that they could do that with. And quite frankly, Gunther doesn't normally get on premium live events. He seems to do the Monday night afterwards. So this is his chance as well.
Oh, no, that drives me insane. That and same when they do it with the US title. It drives me insane. But like I've with Sami Zayn, I do think this, like making him the babyface underdog who loses and loses and loses and eventually wins. Like this has been the plan for Sami Zayn. Okay, we were meant to see Brock Lesnar versus Gunther here, and I do think Gunther was going over Brock before everything that happened. So I think Gunther retains here, comes into Raw after Mania, crowing who's left. When it comes to Gable, I think Gable is going to lose that the ladder match. If he's in it or not, his team are going to lose, and I do think that's where we're going to start seeing Gable get frustrated with his hangers on. But I do reckon here with this, we have a one-on-one big fight, but something happens to screw Sami. Either Gunther out wrestles him or Sami gets unlucky. But I do think they have to protect Sami here because they've been working on making Sami Zayn a big star for a long time now. And like Gable's not quite on his level yet. He'll get there, but he's not quite there yet. And I do think this goes on to SummerSlam. And I know you yourself, Andy, and Mark mentioned there, Dragunov, they reckon is the guy. You guys might reckon is the guy to beat Gunther. Look, I do reckon Gunther and Dragunov is a main event of WrestleMania in the future, destined to happen for a title. Destined. Don't think it's anytime soon. And I'll tell you why. Because the main roster, being a big star in NXT to being a big star in the main roster, is a different story. Like some people like Bron Breakker and Tiffany Stratton are just going to come in and smash. Other people, it's a slower burn, and I think it will be with Dragunov. Dragunov is absolutely a WrestleMania main eventer one day, but people like me might have watched Progress and NXT UK after that and know the history. And WXW. So we know the history between Ilya and Gunther, and it's a long history, and it deserves to be taken all the way to WrestleMania and conclude there, or at least something big happened there. But the idea of Ilya Dragunov just being called up to the main roster and instantly winning that, mate, that is a year or two away as far as I'm concerned. And again, I bet my car on it.
Possibly. I just think that on that side of things with Dragunov is that you can. Again, because we're not under the Vince era where he doesn't acknowledge that NXT exists or anything like that, you can kind of have callbacks to Dragunov and Gunther, and even when he was Walter back on NXT UK, you can have those kind of matches like referred back to quite heavily. And to me, he could get called up, and it would be like everyone would just be like, "What the hell is this guy? Like he's just beaten Gunther. We've never seen him before because he's been on NXT." And then Gunther could go off and do his own stuff with the main event, because I think that's where he has to go up now. Like, I don't know, can he push the IC title any further ahead than he already has? Because to me, he's made it as prestigious as it's going to be. And maybe that is why Sami could take it. But I personally think that there's money in, if you are going to drop a record title reign to someone, it has to be someone that's then going to be like skyrocketed to the next level too. And that makes more sense. If you want to make something of Chad Gable, that would be the perfect opportunity for me. And if you want to do Dragunov, you could do it with Dragunov because people would instantly sit up and go, "Oh God, this guy is the guy who beat Gunther. Well done."
I would say though, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So I was trying to fix that clicking noise. I think I had... I was using a different mic. I was using the one on my headphones. Now I think I'm using the one on the computer, which is a bit better. But yeah, because me and Misfit were talking about this, and Misfit pointed out, well, Sami's held the IC title a bunch of times before. It's not a big deal. I disagree. I think it is a big deal because it's not the same version of Sami Zayn, and it's not the same version of that belt. So the IC belt now means a lot more than it did because of Triple H's booking. It's now, and Gunther's title reign as well. The IC title now means a lot more than it used to. It used to just be this silly bauble that meant nothing, that got passed around week after week on Raw or SmackDown. It isn't that anymore. Now it has some prestige. When Sami last held it, when he was cosplaying as Fidel Castro, that title reign didn't mean much either. He was a heel who had the belt who shouldn't have had the belt because he cheated to get it. If Sami does eventually take that off Gunther, it will almost be like he's never held it before. It'll be like a new thing. It'll mean so much more. And I do think Sami doing that at SummerSlam and holding that is the litmus test for all that. If we all get behind that, then it's worked. And I get what you're saying, because as far as I'm concerned, Gable and Sami can then go on to have an epic feud for that belt. And you know what? We'll care. Yeah. We will care about both men. We will care about the belt. And again, that's where I think it's going. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But for me, I think that's how you do it. That's just me.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And yeah, as Mark quite rightly pointed out, Shayna Baszler has been announced earlier today, by the way, as being on Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 10 event that should happen in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I left it too late to get tickets. I did instantly go to see if there was anything left, but unfortunately that event is sold out. However, I am planning to be at the GCW event that's on at midnight on Thursday and Friday because that looks like a great match event as well. I can't remember if it's GCW and someone else versus the world. Lots of events going on in Philly, but this is a really big deal because WWE don't always let their talent go out, especially during WrestleMania weekend. So that is a big deal for letting Shayna. It also maybe suggests that Shayna's not got any plans outside of maybe like a battle royale or something. But yeah, really interesting to see Shayna Baszler is going to be going out and going on the indie scene in Philly.
I love Bloodsport, mate. I don't know if you do, but every year, because I have my WrestleMania ritual, which I can't wait to do this year. Because it's been 2 years since I've done it. But Bloodsport is always one of those things I watch on the Friday because it's always a good show. I'm not a massive GCW guy. For starters, there's too many shows for me to keep track of. And secondly, I'm not a massive fan of hardcore wrestling. But I always, every year, watch Bloodsport. And Baszler being in it, I can't wait.
She's got some sort of link, hasn't she, with Josh Barnett or some of the people that are involved in setting that up?
Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know what it is, but I can't wait.
Tom Talks Rubbish is in, who I believe, was it today that Dom's interview launched?
Oh, you tell us, Tom. I'm not sure. I've been.
Yeah, if it hasn't, it's coming up very shortly. And I believe as well he's had an interview with himself again because it was so nice he had to do it twice. And you see Sam over on Tom Talks Rubbish, who once again, another one like Dean, is a good friend of all of our shows and channels. So please go check out his stuff as well, where he interviews. The interview is basically the people behind wrestling reporting. If you have seen his channel, you'll see that he has a veritable who's who of people in the wrestling journalism industry. We're going to move on, and this is the last match we're going to be talking about tonight as well, because we want to make sure you're nice and set up for when SmackDown hits in less than 2 hours tonight over on Gimme a Hole Yeah with Sam. You can catch up with all the good stuff there, where you can see The Rock's going to be on it, as our good friend Chris Leclerc said earlier. Did tell us who it was. It's going to be Dakota Kai versus Bayley tonight, so I'm sure there'll be some shenanigans over on SmackDown. But tonight, and to finish us off, we're going to talk about something that got me very excited because every time I go to WrestleMania, I always hope for a ladder match. It's my favorite kind of match to have. So we were announced on Monday night. We had both GMs came together to announce a 6-pack ladder match for the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship, which to me is a little bit laughable. They keep calling this Undisputed Tag titles, because for the love of God, just make them into a beautiful tag team title belts. Is going to keep them unified. If you're not, then just split them up. But maybe this is how we get there. We'll get into it.
Getting awkward. Yeah.
We're going to get some of those matches tonight, I believe, as well. Tag team qualification matches on SmackDown and on Raw, and then we'll fill this field out, because right now all we have is the Judgment Day, who are annoyed, very upset about having to defend their title in these circumstances. And we've found out where Damian Priest fits in for at least one of the things this weekend, because of course he's still got his Money in the Bank. Who are your thoughts on who's going to be in this match? Who would you like to see in this match?
Well, I was kind of thinking Authors of Pain and Street Profits, but then I heard on the grapevine that they've likely got their own match. Again, not announced yet. It's just what we see from dirt sheets. So it might be bollocks, but that's what people are saying. So they would be two of my picks. I do think I reckon it's going to be Gable and Otis are going to be in it. I don't think it's going to be Tozawa and Otis, because I really, like, you know what I mean? Like Tozawa, I've seen get eaten by a shark and chase the 24/7 championship and then do his silly exercises. I'm sorry, there's no reality where I'm going to take Tozawa seriously as a wrestler ever again. He's a very talented guy and I like him, but sorry, that's where I am with that. Who else is there? I'm trying to think. Because it won't be anyone from NXT, I don't think.
DIY.
Defo DIY. I do think R-Truth and Miz, the Awesome Truth are going to be in there, because I do reckon that this is how the germ of this match started, was R-Truth and Miz versus Balor and Priest. And it just, let's be honest, it wasn't big enough, was it, as that? So, and also, if they do it this way, they don't have to have the silly kayfabe breaking rules of multiple tag teams.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to have those stupid rules. With a ladder match, it can be a tornado. Everyone in, free for all. And let's be honest, they're always fun for ladder matches. They always are awesome. DIY, Alpha Academy. Over to you, Andy. I'm a bit unsure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see, because they have announced the matches, and I'm trying to work out if I can find out who it is, because I know Awesome Truth, Imperium, DIY, New Day, Creed Brothers, and Alpha Academy are the ones that have got matches. So to me, I'm pretty sure you can fill one of those with Miz Truth, because that's the way that they've been building that. I think you can put in DIY, because DIY has been heavily booked into that as well. So there's two of the spots. New Day, I'd be shocked if they're not in. Yeah, if New Day's not involved in it, because I kind of feel like they're guys that you want to throw something in like that into, because they're experienced professionals. They're over with the crowd whenever they're out there as well. Then you probably need a couple of heel teams to flesh that out. Otherwise, it's a bit of an uneven field. So it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Imperium gets in.
Yes,
I wouldn't mind seeing an NXT team thrown in there. Do you throw Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin in randomly, or?
See, you could, because Bron is on the main roster, and it's only a matter of time before Corbin comes back to the main roster as well, because I think he's done everything he needed to do on NXT now. So bring him back and bring him. He's been rehabilitated there, I think, quite nicely. So, but here's the thing: I think they're probably going to have an important match in Stand and Deliver. So I don't know if they're going to be on like all three of the cards. It'd be cool if they did. But I think, again, I'm struggling to pick one, so maybe I'm cancelling out my own point. But I think we've got enough teams on the main roster to pick from them, and I think it'd be a bit of a dick move if they pulled someone from NXT for this. I think
Street Profits are in a match. I know that.
Here's the thing. Yeah, what word on the street is Street Profits are going to be with AOP. With
one of them's going through.
Yeah. Well, I
think he said it's 3 teams from Raw and 2 from SmackDown, because Nick Aldis said he's like, "Oh, you drive a hard bargain."
What I heard, we're getting Lashley and the Profits versus AOP and Karrion Kross at Mania.
Okay, so maybe they're not against each other then.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Again, that could be rubbish, but one of the matches I heard that they are, when you see the final planned out card, and this wasn't one of those rubbish ones that people do and then share on Twitter. This actually came from a reliable source. That was a match. Like, again, they could pull it and mix and match it at any time, but at one point that was planned. I wish I paid a little bit more attention as to who was in this match. But
I know who it is. It's Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate versus I've got the names. We've spoke to them, the two lads from England.
Oh, Pretty Deadly.
Deadly. So it's pretty funny. Yes, it's Pretty Deadly versus Mustache Mountain, effectively, or that Catch, whatever they're called, Catch New Republic, which is such a weird name. Also,
they're not allowed to call it British Strong Style, are they? Like, they should be called British Strong Style, but because it's such, I don't know, the WWE need to give things their own thing.
Yeah.
But that'll be funny. Anyone who watched NXT UK, right, and NXT, when they were very affiliated with Progress and ICW, they were bloody. They were British Strong Style, so I don't get the beef. I don't get why they had to change them.
New Catch Republic. I knew it was something along those lines. As you can see, by the way, it is official now because Mark does have the spanner next to his name, so he is.
We're going to make it official on SmackDown, mate. We're going to do it. We're going to. We all know, but we'll do it. Mark. Spoiler alert. We're going to do a much grander revelation on the SmackDown stream. But
No, absolutely. Because you deserve it, and if I had a sound effect, I would do the "you deserve it" thing. But yeah, thanks, Dan. I don't think that's what they're actually called. I'm pretty sure Mark's right when he said New Catch Republic. So yes, I believe that's happened tonight, but I could be wrong. But are we going to see Judgment Day drop the titles here? That's the big question, I guess.
I think, right. I've pulled this out, by the way, just to see if that's better. Because if you don't know, by the way, backstage, me and Andy are having some difficulty with me clicking. But yeah, I think they have to, because one of the stories they need to tell here is Balor versus
now. I will tell you, by the way, just to sort it out. If you move the mic a little bit back, you might be okay. But
how was that?
Yeah, keep talking.
Echo. Charlie Delta.
You're quiet, but I can hear you. No, you're out completely now.
What about now?
Yes, perfect.
Right, what is going on with these headphones? Anyway, right, I'm going to try and leave it like that and see what happens.
Yeah.
But there we are. What was the question after? Sorry, I don't know why I'm having technical difficulties. Or because I'm using a new computer.
Are the Judgment Day going to drop the titles here?
Yes, because I think the story is Balor versus Priest eventually, and he has to do something with that Money in the Bank briefcase. If this happens, is this happening on night one? By the way, do we know?
I don't think the split of nights, other than the ones that they've announced in terms of the main event and stuff, and the championship match has been announced yet. They normally do that in the week of, don't they?
Because I reckon he's cashing in on someone. I'm not sure who. Perhaps because we're going to see Logan Paul versus Randy Orton more than likely, aren't we?
That could be a triple threat with Kevin Owens, but it also could be a tag team match. I'm hearing that maybe KSI and Logan Paul in a tag team match against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens is a possibility.
See, I wouldn't like that because I want the United States Championship needs to be defended. Although Logan could do double duty, he could do that. But I think we've got to work out who's he cashing in on and when. And if they don't do it at Mania, I'm going to be a bit like, come on now.
Yeah. I don't know, to be quite honest with that one. The nights definitely haven't been announced. I know that for a fact, but I know what you mean. But like, I do like the fact, and I've got a nice picture to prove the point, that we've got a little bit more of a mean streak behind Damian Priest and they were alluding to it on commentary as well, which I think was really important because this is the time where commentary teams like on both Raw and SmackDown have to sell the story behind it a lot more. Like, we should be hearing the frustration and seeing it on his face here. Damien Priest is like, oh, I'm hearing all this the chat about I'm not good enough to be the champion. I know I've said it. I don't think he is big enough, to be quite honest. So yeah, I don't think that is a thing that's going to happen. But certainly, Damien Priest needs to be heated up, and they've started to do it. But I also just don't want him to have the briefcase anymore, pure and simple. I know that might sound a little bit like crap, but I don't really get where he fits in, because he's on Raw with Judgment Day. But is this where we've had Andrade has come in a little bit more as well? So is Andrade being warmed up to be his replacement when he does go off the SmackDown because he cashes in for the US title? Is that how they get around it? Or do we have a little bit of hijinks where Rhea and the rest of Judgment Day maybe turn on him, or he loses his opportunity, and that's where Andrade comes in? Because it's been quite pointed that he's been lurking backstage with them, and Dom's been sticking up for him, and now Finn has as well. So that's got to play into it somehow, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's like Mark said a minute ago. He's running out of time. No, and Normar said a moment ago, he's running out of time. There's a couple of months until Money in the Bank, and that blinking that'll be here. Backlash, after and Money in the Bank is upon us quite soon. So with something has to happen, and I think Mania is the place where it happens. They can't waste this. This has to, and I've got the faith that they won't. This isn't going to be like Baron Corbin when he cashed in. I think something good is going to happen here. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they get there. Give me some time. I'll come up with it. But I do think something has to happen here to separate him from Balor, so they end up feuding. One of them leading Judgment Day. But I love, here's the thing. Balor has still got unfinished business with Rollins. Something might happen there. He was after the big gold belt for quite a long time. As Senior Money in the Bank. If something could happen there and he was to screw Balor out of that was the story they were telling for a long time. Or is it the way around? Does he cash in and Balor screws him after they lose in this match? There you go. I've fantasy booked it myself. I think they lose their belts here. He cashes in on Rollins and McIntyre. He fails because of Balor. Because Balor is like, no, I'm going after that belt, not you. And you are the reason why we lost the tag team belts. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, they did start teasing a bit of beef between Judgment Day and Imperium, where Damien Priest stepped into, and they've also had obviously that match where Dom got kind of destroyed. And I thought that was actually probably one of Dominic's best matches so far, by the way, and just bumped the hell out of those chops. And then we haven't seen him since. I know he got married, but, kayfabe and all that. I thought they did a great job.
He's on his honeymoon, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, something funny. Damien Priest apparently started a chorus of boos at their wedding.
I have seen the video. He started doing the speech, and everyone in the room is doing it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and out of everything, by the way, please don't let it be in 2024. We should not be seeing Miz and R-Truth have the belts. I do find Truth funny, like the videos he puts together when they're like babies and stuff running. That funny, but I don't need to see him be a champion. I got bored of R-Truth's shtick pretty much about his third or fourth Roman 24/7 belt. So yeah, I don't need to see it.
I've been an R-Truth hater for many years, and this story has got over with me. I like it. I think at one point they had a plan to make him the next Sami Zayn underdog with the whole Judgment Day, with the bloodline. You know how they did with Sami, but nah, I'm not feeling it, and I don't want them to be champs. They're saying it's Mania, it's the happy place, but no.
Yeah,
we need to go from Mania into Raw, so no, thank you.
So your SmackDown representatives will have to come. By the way, I've just looked it up. We've got the as we were kind of going through before, the New Catch Republic. So Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are facing off against Pretty Deadly tonight. I also believe tonight we're getting LWO versus Legado del Fantasma, and that is also a qualification match. So the winners of that are into here, and then we've got the Raw side. And to me, that I would suggest it's probably going to be it'll be Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne and I don't really know how you call that LWO match because they've kind of 50-50 booked it. I'll go with LWO because I think they'll want Joaquin Phoenix. That's not him at all. Joaquin Wilder, isn't it?
Joaquin Phoenix, well, blimey, is he going to?
That'd be an interesting WrestleMania moment. But yes, I think they'll want him doing one of his kind of crazy moves, and those guys seem to be like more than happy to put their bodies on the line. So yeah, I think it'll be those two teams. But then again, that's two face teams. Then I also think you throw in DIY, you throw in Miz Truth, and then New Day. So I think that'll be your field because you get a good range of different people in there.
New Day, I forgot about LWO, the New Day, and Legado. They're the three teams, and Tyler Bate. Yeah, so yeah, it could be like blimey, with all them teams. Yeah, I don't see them bringing anyone up from NXT. But
this is going to sound a bit controversial again. I would have a finish where different teams on Raw and SmackDown pull down different belts, and then you have to split the belts up, and then it means SmackDown and Raw both have a tag team championship.
I agree. I think that's a cracking idea. I think if they don't do that, then sodding unify them because this is getting silly now.
Oh, it just gives us. It just looks ridiculous when they're like carrying around that many belts. It just stupid.
Like, I get it when Roman Reigns did it, and it makes sense, and it makes sense for what Eddie Kingston's doing over on AEW as well. Although I do have some gripes with that. That's a conversation for another day. But yeah, for the look, like the whole point was the Usos were winning one set of tag belts, and then they won the other set of tag belts. Why have they been defended together for this long? Either they're unified or they're not. Make a decision, WWE.
Yeah. And also, it's their chance. And let's face it, WWE love to do it because I've seen about 8 new belts they've released over the last 2 weeks for WrestleMania. Why would you not just get rid of the red and blue belts and give us a nice sort of like black leather with a new design on it? And you can even, if it is going to keep them together, then put them out on the Raw afterwards where you can see, oh, we're the new Undisputed title holders and this is our new belt. And they look maybe a little bit more how they used to, because I think there's been some great tag team belts over the years. In particular, I will say the NXT UK tag team championships were fantastic. They looked beautiful. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing something a little bit more similar to that. But that is the 4 matches that we have been talking about tonight. There, of course, will be some more, a lot more added, I imagine, probably 4 or 5 more added between now and WrestleMania. We haven't seen any kind of like multi-man battle royale matches. There has been a few things mentioned, I think, on Twitter between the likes of Ivar and Bronson Reed, where they want some sort of biggie, meaty invitational match where it's all big guys that are in it. Wouldn't be against that. You'll get some pretty entertaining spots. But I also think, like, going back full circle, it's really important that they've got that tag team match on the first night because you'll get the casual viewers that will tune in. You'll have to watch the whole of WrestleMania to find out, to get to that main event. And then hopefully they do a good enough job to make you come back to the second night and see what happens between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. So I think these are 4 great matches to have been added. And quite frankly, keep them coming. I want to see some more. I also think this is the time now to build those matches outside of the main event and the championships, because I want to see, are we seeing AJ Styles versus LA Knight? Yeah. Are we going to see any, the US title or something between Randy Orton be added on there? We need these things moved up a little bit. There's big rumors that we're going to get Tiffany Stratton versus Bianca Belair. So why are we seeing that at WrestleMania? Why should we care about that on the biggest event possible, rather than it just being like, oh, let's have another women's match on there? So give us some reasons as to why we want to see us on WrestleMania. Give us some story behind it, and you've set everything else up. Give us over the next 2 weeks some more time on those matches. It would be the only thing I will say. Sam, any final thoughts before we send everyone home happy?
No, I'd just like to quickly plug Give Me a Whole Yeah, if I can. Same with WrestleSphere. Check out some of the articles we've got up on WrestleSphere. There's a few more coming. I've been planning a couple of features for a long time. I just need a nice quiet evening to do them. Yep. Check out Give Me a Whole Yeah tonight. It's going to be a little bit different. For starters, we're gonna properly coronate Mark over on the SmackDown stream, and secondly, I will be wearing some traditional Indian dress on the stream tonight. in honor of Rishab, one of the Huller Maniacs, and someone I work with at Deserto, who got married and sent me a lovely little care package because I couldn't be at his wedding. And I've got some Indian sweets I'll be trying on stream, and I'll be wearing this pretty funky shirt, which I look quite dapper in, I must say. So yeah, tune in if you want to see me wear a very different outfit. I'll still be wearing that. And eat some Indian sweets and see what I think. That's going to be fun.
Very nice. Well, it's been lovely having you back, Sam. It's been far too long, and it's been great getting into it. I hope you're enjoying these Friday night features. I think that's quite a clever name for them. They will be going ahead for the foreseeable future. We'll see what we do during WrestleMania weekend. I will be out in Philadelphia. I don't think we're going to be getting any kind of media access, but that doesn't mean we're not going to bring you great content while we're out there. So I will try and bring you some things live from Philadelphia, Wi-Fi and coverage permitting. It'll be quite fun. I will try and bring you some of the stuff from the indie shows if I can as well. But certainly keep your eyes peeled, because if it's on Wrestling Royalty, I'll try and make sure it's available for the guys on Gimme a Whole Year, guys and girls Gimme a Whole Year as well. But I'm sure the team will have you covered in terms of watch-alongs and things like that as well. But yeah, really exciting times across all the channels. So make sure you tune in and hit that subscribe button. But it has been fantastic speaking to you. And if you do enjoy it, as I say, give us a like, give us a follow, and drop us a comment, even if you're watching this we're not live, and we will get back to you, I promise. We enjoy having your thoughts and your views, and not just us talking to each other for an hour and a half.
Well, at you.
All right, yeah. My voice is spent, and I'm sure Sam wants to save something left over in the tank for that very exciting episode of SmackDown he's got coming up, dressed, as he said, in Indian garb, traditional Indian garb as well.
That would have been a better word, because I think people got the wrong idea then. I'm not wearing a dress. I'm wearing traditional Indian dress, as in garb, as in clothing. I'm not wearing a bloody dress, and of course not. It is quite long, it looks good.
We'll see if we do that. And obviously, you'll have to make sure you keep your eyes peeled for the upcoming predictions for WrestleMania as well. There's a big thing coming. I'm sure that Dan will have you sorted for that. So make sure you tune in to the social media side of things as well, and see if you can be crowned the Gimme a Whole Year Predictions Champion for 2024. But what better place to leave it? And we will see you again next week. Keep your eyes peeled across WrestleSphere, Gimme a Whole Year, Soundsphere, Wrestling Royalty, all that good stuff. Make sure you check it all out. Always great content, and always great to speak to you. But for tonight, he's been Sam, I've been Andy. This has been Wrestling Royalty.